Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable on this We Don't Have to Watch the Eagles next weekend, Monday night. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. Joined by the crew. Here we're just going to continue to oscillate between victory Monday, Tuesdays, and just Ryan is depressed Monday, Tuesdays. But Ryan, I feel like we need to check in with you. How you doing, man? I like the hat.
Thank you. It's just out of pure laziness. I really just didn't feel like running all the way upstairs to my hat collection. So this is what you're getting for today.
I like it. I respect it. Follow Ryan on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Also joined by Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dives, how you doing?
Remember when Eagles football used to be fun? Not me.
Was that 2 years ago? Also followed by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how you doing?
A lot better than the rest of the panel, apparently. I'm optimistic and happy and healthy and well, so I feel good.
Never said I wasn't.
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm
just reading body language, Ryan. Just reading body language. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm doing great. We're heating back up in Oklahoma, and my son had baseball practice tonight. And I was like a designated base runner for like 30 minutes, got a ton of cardio in. It feels really good to be in an air-conditioned office instead of still at the ball field. So I'm doing good. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about the disaster that was the Eagles game in Tampa Bay. Since it's the bye week next week, we will not be previewing the following week's game. So this week will probably be a little shorter show, just review. Next week will probably also be a little shorter show, just a preview show. But those are the breaks. So, and we certainly need a break. The Eagles, by we, I mean the Eagles need a break for some of these injuries. So guys, let's dive into it. Let's start off with just some comedy a little bit before we dive in. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners are on Twitter and follow all this stuff, but some of you might not. So I just want to clue you guys in on some of the things that transpired after the games. There's 3 points here. One, you've got Devin White, who is inactive for personal reasons, i.e. he didn't want to suit up, retweeting Levante David, strip sacking Jalen Hurts during the game. And then afterwards on Twitter, he's like semi-apologizing for it. He's like, hey, I didn't mean to retweet it. I just meant to like it because we used to play together and we were buddies. So that's funny in and of itself. Then you get Darius Slay on Twitter after the game talking about all his personal accolades over his career as the team captain of a defense that got eviscerated, which he also deleted and apologized for. So we got lots of apologies on Twitter. And then my personal favorite, though, is Isaiah Rodgers.
Yes.
Which I love that we get somebody just talking candidly instead of, dodging questions. But admitting that he intentionally blocked the gunner into into Cooper DeJean because he thought it would be a penalty. The guy's played special teams his whole career. I went and looked it up on PFF. He's got like 60 plus snaps in 2022 and in 2021 on punt coverage teams. Or on punt return teams. So just a litany of comedy on Twitter today. I thought I'd lead off the show with that just for some of our viewers that may not be on Twitter. And you just kind of got to shake your head and laugh at this point. But that's our Twitter update. Let's dive into this mess of a game. Let's start with our big picture takeaways. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first.
I think we knew the defense was going to be a hot mess this year. And honestly, I thought the first 3 games, they, for the most part, played with a lot of heart. It seemed like that was missing yesterday. And I'm not sure why, but it just seemed a little off. Offensively, I think Kellen Moore needs to be sat down, maybe slapped a couple of dozen times for only giving let's be honest, our only weapon in this game, 10 carries, 4 targets, 2 catches. He touched the ball 12 times, people. When you were missing A.J. Brown and you were missing Devontae Smith. That should not happen. I just don't understand what the thought process was. So outside of all of the errors, the turnovers, the Isaiah Rodgers is, all the BS and the awful defense. Offense could at least showed up and game planned a little bit and maybe not put the whole game onto Jalen Hurts' shoulders when he's missing his two best weapons. Maybe, just maybe, in that situation, you take a little bit off his plate, considering he's working with a lot less. You give the ball to Saquon a little bit more, relieve some of that. Then you could throw, your little passes to Dallas Goedert, and unfortunately Jack Stoll, who caught a pass. I was not happy about that. But outside of that, yeah, that's what I got to say.
All right. Dives, I'll throw it to you. Give me your big picture takeaway from this game.
Ultimately, the offense is probably going to be fine when everyone gets healthy. It's just the approach. It's the game plan. It's the head coach not getting this team prepared. It's the terrible starts. Like Saquon Barkley, or the lack thereof, was my big takeaway. The Eagles, for whatever reason, want to be a passing offense, and they should be a dominant run team. They should be running the football to set up the pass. And we didn't see a lot of running with Jalen Hurts. We didn't see a lot of running with Saquon Barkley. Maybe you want to give your MVP candidate more than 10 carries. So it's simply inexcusable. It's the same thing as what we saw in 2023. This team has an identity crisis. It starts with the coaching staff. And I'm just getting sick and tired of these slow starts in the first quarter. Now, 6 straight first quarters with no points. So there's a lot of issues here. But at the end of the day, the offense will probably be fine. I just dislike the inconsistency and this team out the gate. And that's been a pretty decent pattern where Saquon Barkley can go for long stretches with not getting a single carry, or they can go away from something that's working, and the situational play calling, things like that.
Yeah, I went today and looked back at the Eagles' first 3 offensive and defensive possessions. And so far this year, they've trailed after 3 possessions in 3 of 4 games. They've lost the turnover battle in the first 3 possessions in 3 of 4 games. Even if you remove yesterday, they had a turnover differential of -5 in the first 3 possessions. They've been outscored. And it's not just, like you said, it's not just a this season thing. If you look back to the bye week of last year, they've been outscored by 11 points, outgained by 115 yards, and have a -8 turnover differential in the first 3 possessions. And so that's absolutely there. Like, that's got to get better. You've got to start games better. And that's your scripted stuff. Like, that's the stuff you have all week to sit down and think about. And it's just got to be better than that. You mentioned the Saquon Barkley stuff, and I posted a meme on Twitter the other day after the game. So I just want to show it to you guys here. This is it for me. Those of you that are maybe just listening, it's the Star Wars, the 4-panel, and it says, we're missing our top 2 wide receivers. And so you say, so you're going to feed the ball to your league leading running back, right? He just looks at her. It's like, right. And it's just not there. That was really disappointing for me in a game that was set up like that. That was how you approached it in the beginning. So, Dives, you threw your hand up. What did you want to say there?
They got to start getting yards on first down. Way too many times yesterday we saw the Eagles team throw on first down and get nothing from it. Whereas Saquon is getting a ton of yards at a historic clip for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, you saw the Bucs get a manageable third down after manageable third down because they're getting significant yards on offense on first down. Whereas the Eagles, they get stuck in these 3rd and longs, and it's the same script every year. So they have to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, heck, that first drive, they only forced Tampa Bay into 2 third downs. on a 70-yard plus drive. It wasn't even they were getting to third down. They were handling their business on first and second. That's all they needed. The defense was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Eagles currently rank, they're about middle of the pack in the NFL in terms of neutral down pass rate. So it's not that they're just not running the ball, but generally I think you should, I like throwing on first down. It's just not what I would have chosen yesterday down Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But David, what's your big takeaway coming out of this game and into the bye?
I'll save my offense and defense for when you ask that in a minute. But my biggest takeaway other than that is the deals and the moves that Howie Roseman made during the offseason that everybody thought were going to be such big splashes. Bryce Huff, who has virtually zero stats in 4 games. And then the trading of a 3rd-round pick for Jahan Dotson. I mean, Howie traded for him for this very situation. If it arose, this is what he was brought in for. But he did not shine in Florida. And if he cannot produce with AJ and Devontae out, when is he going to? Because these are the opportunities he was brought in here to have. His targets go much further down as soon as they come back, which is probably right after the bye. So what is his role if it wasn't to excel and exceed while they were out injured?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You would like to see Jahan Dotson factor into the game a little bit more in that situation. I think
wasn't even targeted much.
Yeah. No. There's certainly blame that can go on Jalen Hurts in this game. You cannot have that fumble. That's a really bad play. He had another fumble that they got back on. And like the turnovers have got to stop, and the turnovers are maddening. But I do think a lot of Eagles fans watch only the Eagles and maybe don't look around the rest of the league as well, because there's a lot of comparable situations in the league yesterday. Matthew Stafford was down Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and he threw a pick and fumbled in a loss. Aaron Rodgers, with his whole team healthy, well, starting right tackles out, but they drafted Olu Fashanu, who is better than Morgan Moses probably at this point in their career anyways. He took 5 sacks and was 24 or 42 passing and lost a game where his defense allowed only 186 yards. Justin Herbert was down both of his offensive tackles, and after an opening touchdown drive, the Chargers only gained 20 yards and 2 first downs on their next 6 possessions, and he ended with under 200 yards passing. You watch Sunday Night Football and Josh Allen against the Ravens, and he was down 21-3 like that after 3 possessions, and he was pressured on 44.1% of his dropbacks. He had a fumble that he lost. He was 16 of 29 for 180 yards and a 35-10 loss. Jalen Hurts was pressured on 57% of his dropbacks in this game. Like, there's a huge element of he did not have a chance in this game. And the game plan played into that, and that doesn't excuse the fumbles. And I'm not a Hurts apologist, because I'll call Hurts out on plays that I think are bad, and he certainly had some in this game. I think at the end of the day, it's a bad spot. But through 4 weeks, the Eagles offense ranks 11th in DVOA, and that's with 1 game of A.J. Brown. Hurts has the 4th highest completion percentage over expectation because he's having to make more difficult throws than your average quarterback because he's down his top 2 receivers. And so it's a bad spot. It's not the game plan they should have come in with. But what's indefensible in this game for me is the defense. The defense had 11 of 11 starters. You're fully healthy. And you came in against a guy who has the 2nd fastest time to throw in the league, the 4th shortest average depth of target, and you just let him throw to the flat, and you let him throw to the flat, and you let him throw to the flat over and over and over, and you never challenged him. You never adjusted. There's a lot of talk about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. And there's rightful criticism there. I'm on the record that I would have let Sirianni go last offseason, so this isn't me defending Sirianni. But people should have both barrels loaded for Vic Fangio, because that defensive performance was an abomination. So that's kind of I don't know if that's my big picture takeaway, my offense and my defense put together. But I think there's certainly plenty of blame to go around for everybody except Saquon. Although he did miss the block that led to the strip sack. So maybe everybody's got blame to go around. But the defense should be getting a lot more criticism than the offense right now, is my thought. So I'll throw it back to you, David. Give me your offensive takeaway. You said you had a big picture in offense and defense. So talk to me about the offense.
The Eagles have played 4 games and they haven't scored a single point in the first quarter. And that's a really bad problem. And in this particular game, they did not even, I think it was, they did not even net a yard until Tampa had 255. Is that true? I think that's what it was, something crazy like that.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, it was. They were like in the 200s when the Eagles had 0. I don't remember what the exact number was.
And especially yesterday with the game that's like 105-degree field temperature, they had 3 3-and-outs to start the game, and the defense is right back out there. And this is not to excuse the defense, like what you just stated. Every single thing about that is correct. But when they go out there for 12, 13 minutes of the first quarter because the offense cannot produce anything, 3 3-and-outs, it's putting everybody in a tough spot. And like you had mentioned about the game plan, the offensive takeaway is Todd Bowles has been the kryptonite, so to speak, for Jalen Hurts since he got into this league. And you know what they're going to do, and they combat it with nothing. 57, 58% pressure on every down. And I don't think he threw an interception when he was facing the blitz, but I don't remember how many times he was sacked, 5, 6 times out of it, including the strip fumble. I mean, it was like they went into this knowing what was going to happen, and they just allowed it. They did nothing to combat it.
Yeah, if there's ever a team you should want to stay away from 3rd and long against, it's the Buccaneers. And the Eagles, it's like they came in with the game plan expressly designed to get to 3rd and long. It's like, man, we've got this great play for 3rd and 8. If we can just get there, we're good. Because, I mean, we've known analytically for years that 2nd and 10 runs are bad play calls. Unless you're trying to milk a clock at the end of a game, a 2nd and 10 run is almost always a bad play call. And that's what the Eagles did over and over. I mean, that 3-and-out, it was incomplete pass on 1st down, run on 2nd down, face a big blitz on 3rd and long. And that's what they did, I think, on all 3 of their first 3 drives.
It is, yeah.
All right. Well, Ryan, I will throw it to you. I don't remember if you gave me an offense or defensive takeaway, but give me one on the other side of the ball now.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said offensively was my most thing. Yeah, I felt like, and David just kind of mentioned it, where I was going to be going is, they were on that field in that, 110-degree heat for the majority of that first quarter. And when you start out a game like that, when you're already gassed, why do you think so many of our defensive players came out of the game for, some were small periods of time, some were a little bit longer, but they were coming out for heat-related issues. It's, again, the offense set the defense up to fail. The defense was already set to fail by allowing Baker Mayfield to carve them up by dinking and dunking, short little play here, short little play here. And that's all he did. And then as soon as he had a chance that was open a little bit down the field, he had his way with us. Unfortunately, Bryce Huff needs to get off the field, like now. I don't care if you trade him for a used bag of balls. Get him off this team. Get him off the field. Throw Jalix Hunt in there. I'd rather see what this kid can do. At least there's something to grow on that. Let's call this deal a failure already, and let's move on. Get Hunt in the damn game. Enough's enough.
Yeah, I mean, or at least let him put his hand in the dirt and be an edge rusher, not a linebacker. He did have a run stop in this game. That's the first positive statistic he's had. So we've at least got that going for him.
We got that notched on the old belt.
All right, Dibes, lay on me another take. I think you went offense first time around. I honestly can't remember.
Vic Fangio is a fraud. I'm just like above anything else. Like I'm just ready to move on. This was the Eagles' 5th loss by 3 or more scores since week 13 of last year. A lot of that's Nick Sirianni, but a lot of it is also attributed to defensive scheme. And like Ryan said, we saw Baker Mayfield just get whatever he wanted all day long. He didn't really have that many explosive plays, and Fangio never adjusted. The linebackers in the secondary were giving up easy yards over and over and over again. They missed, 16 tackles. They couldn't tackle guys in open space, and they had a lot of open space. And newsflash, we already know that's not a good idea given the personnel of this defense heading into this season. So you look at that, you look at the takeaways. They only have 2 takeaways this season. That's the fewest number of takeaways in Eagles team history through 4 weeks. And it was just a pathetic performance all the way around. I think my defensive takeaway is this is a rebuild, and we're in the early stages of truly getting this defense where it needs to be. And that's starts at the top. The defense is just too passive. They got to become more aggressive after the bye week. But also there's some talent issues for this defense as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I saw a stat I was trying to find that I can't seem to find on Twitter anymore, but it was something about, I think it said the Eagles have had nobody in press coverage on 89% of their defensive snaps so far this year, which is by far the lowest in the league. I will have to try to find the exact stat and retweet it. I can't seem to come across it now, but we got a comment here coming in from YouTube, says that Huff is in the wrong scheme. I agree with that. White's not playing because they need to see what Dean is worth. I don't know that I agree with that. I think Dean's I think Dean outplayed White. White's not that good of a player, and I think people have always overrated him. He is a good blitzer, and so maybe you want to put him on the field and blitz, but and Slay needs to be traded because Rodgers is young. Time to move on. Hurts needs to sidestep and then run or pass. A lot of stuff going on there in that comment. Hurts did sidestep and then try to pass. You just can't. You got to change the launch point. So it's sad that he fumbled that one because that was such good elusiveness in the pocket. If he had then just tucked it and ran, that would have been a play that I was man, look at this pocket awareness. The blitzer's coming. You slide step with both hands on the ball and you break the pocket. I hate that he tried to throw that right after that and it gets stripped out. But
who was on that block? Was that
was Saquon?
Yeah, he just stopped. He just stopped, and so obviously David then just continued on towards Hurts again. So Saquon needs to take a little hit on that for not finishing that play there.
Yeah, and Saquon's usually, I was singing his praises last week for a couple really good reps he had in pass protection. Running backs are going to get beat in pass protection at times, but Barkley is generally good at it, and he just wasn't on that play at all. Did I hit everybody? David, I need your second takeaway. What's your takeaway on the defensive side?
For the defensive side, for starters, you can't play 8 yards off against a quarterback who throws in 2 seconds. That is defensive malpractice. It put everybody in a terrible position, and they had no chance with the way they were playing the shell and playing back and not pressing. They had no chance. But real quick hits, Nakobe Dean, he was exposed versus Tampa. He had lots of missed tackles. He almost had as many missed tackles as he had tackles. I think he had 6 or 7 tackles in the game and missed 5. He was late in coverage, and the middle of the field was exposed the whole day. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he brings a great attitude and mindset to the defense, but he has struggled on the field. You need to see more from him. Big play Slay needs a lot more big plays because he's had 2 interceptions over his last 31 games. Avonte Maddox has struggled as the slot nickel corner. He has missed lots of tackles, and Cooper DeJean had 1 defensive snap. It has to be time to see what he can bring to the defensive side of the ball there as a slot nickel corner. And then lastly, a little bright spot, Quinyon Mitchell played every single defensive snap for the Eagles. I believe he was the only player to do that in a game when multiple players left the field due to heat. His conditioning in the Florida heat was never questioned. So that was the one lone bright spot. And then one more thing. Did anybody else catch the ref like come up and push Jalen Carter and he just flopped to the ground? Did anybody else catch that during the game?
I saw him go down right in front of the ref. I didn't actually see the interaction. I thought he like cramped up and fell. Did the ref push him?
He touched him and he just flies backwards. I have no idea what in the heck he was doing, but yeah, it was really crazy.
Maybe it's just a silly guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'm pretty sure he stayed down and like
he
went
did
to an injury timeout.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was hurt, flopped. I think it was all of the above. Yeah, it was a very ugly defensive performance.
Yeah, I was looking away at the moment that happened, but my son was like, the ref pushed him down. I was like, no, he didn't. I need to go back and watch that again and see what happened.
Yeah, find the clip. It's very crazy. I haven't seen it mentioned all day, but it was crazy during real time.
Yeah. I'm ready for Cooper DeJean. I would love to see him on the field. I think he helps your run defense. And that's one of the bigger things. Like the defense's really good performance was against a team that does something no one else in the NFL does. And that's basically refuse to run 11 personnel. The Eagles have got to be able to stop the run with their nickel personnel against 11 personnel. That's the root. That's one of the roots of all problems. That and just being so passive with your defensive backs. Like those are the two. I mean, I feel like there's an easy solution on the other one. Let your defensive backs get up closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't know what the answer is for the run defense. Other than going to single high safety looks, which is something that Fangio is just not going to do much at all. So
yeah. And I didn't mean to leave out Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff combined for 40 pass rushing snaps, and they managed a single pressure between them. He's struggling too. He sets the edge good, blah, 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 but he is not doing what he was brought in here to do, and that's to get to the quarterback. And I am probably the biggest Nolan Smith fan that I know. And so it kills me to say it, but they're really struggling. Like I said, to open it with all these Howie Roseman additions, everybody was singing his praises for all these time, but a lot of these guys, they got to start paying off because these are starting to look in hindsight like some really questionable moves.
Yeah, they're not panning out right now. Anyway, and
I will say, in Nolan Smith's defense, he might have had the best coverage rep of the day of anyone on the entire defense against Chris Godwin.
He definitely did. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it was ridiculous that he was even in that situation.
Right.
Like if you're gonna drop an edge into coverage so you can blitz a linebacker, I'm cool with that. Unless you walk that edge rusher out over a slot receiver pre-snap and tip it all off, and then I'm very out on that. But low key, like, it wasn't bad coverage for an edge rusher on Chris Godwin. He was sure as heck of a lot closer than Avonte Maddox was.
Definitely. And Jalix Hunt only played 5 snaps, but he blew up the tight end on one of those plays, man. He disrupted an entire sequence there. So that was exciting to see. I don't know if he's going to continue to get any more, but like Ryan mentioned earlier, I think they should find a way to get him on the field a little bit and see what you have.
Please. Yeah. I mean, defensively, again, you don't have a lot of talent. Unfortunately, you just don't. You have a lot of.
I actually think they have talent that's being completely misused in a lot of ways. I mean, could any team could use more talent, but sure. I think Bryce Huff could exceed if he was put into a more favorable situation. And I thought that this week would be that week.
Next to the quarterback?
No, in a 4th down point stance. I mean, everybody's not going to be able to play linebacker like Bond did when Fangio moves him back. I mean, he is just completely out of position, and he's not doing what he did last season. And I think it's hard to expect him to be as effective as he was with the Jets when you're completely misusing him.
Yeah. Two things are true. Huff's been atrocious this year. The Eagles are also asking him to do an entirely different thing than he did with the Jets for 2 years when he was good. It was always a projection, and that projection looks like it's totally failed. You've got to figure out how to try to salvage it. And if that requires you changing up some of your defensive philosophies that aren't working anyways, I think it's a change that you should be looking into over a bye week.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. I guess for the sake of completion, we should do player of the games.
All right.
Let's dive into it. Ryan, Dives, I'll give it to you first. You've been quiet over there for a little while. Who's your player of the game?
I hate this question so much. I'll say I'm going to cheat as I always do. Quite honestly, in a game that was straight up quicksand where everything was falling apart, I'll say the Eagles injury report. Yeah, a lot of people were dehydrated and things like that, but it could have been worse. It could have been worse where Saquon gets hurt or more guys like start, getting hurt on the football field in that mess of a football game, if that's what you want to call it. So for me, it's the injury report that there were no major injuries sustained, at least for my knowledge, and that's what I'll go with.
They should have drank pickle juice.
I can't do pickles. I can't even smell pickles.
I love pickles, man. I put pickles on my sandwiches, like the spicy.
I love a good pickle.
Like the smell of pickles.
You know.
The smell of pickles makes me almost throw up.
Also, the greatest drink ever, picklebacks.
Like a couple weeks ago, I went to Chick-fil-A and got a sandwich, and I asked for no pickles, and I got it to go and brought it home. When I got home, I realized there were pickles on it. Nice. And so I got rid of the pickles, but I also had to throw away the bread that the pickles were touching because there's too much like pickle juice seeping into the bread. It's all I can taste. So I ate the Chick-fil-A sandwich with only one piece of bread. I cannot do pickles, period. So if it's between leaving a game with cramps and drinking pickle juice, I'm sorry. I'm a bad, like the hydration chart that they have, like the good teammate to you're just a bad person. If it takes drinking pickle juice to stay on the field, I'm a bad teammate. Sorry.
Wow.
I put pickle juice in my chili. It's an underrated ingredient.
Oh, really?
Check it out.
I'll have that. I just made chili a few weeks ago, so next time I'll have to. How much are we talking?
Oh, not much. Like a half a cup.
All right. Well, I'll give it a shot.
Ryan, what you do is when you make your chili, you brown the meat, you get it all put in and you simmer it for a little bit. And then you get a half a cup of pickle juice, and then you dump that down the sink, and then you eat your chili.
Okay.
And it'll still taste good. That's the way to go. So, all right, the injury report is the player of the game for Dives. Love it. Ryan, who's your player of the game?
I was wondering where he was going to go with that one. Because I was like, man, you can't even say the coaches. You can't say this. You can't say that. But listen, it has to be Saquon. Even though he was limited in his touches, he still had 84 yards. He had 100 total yards. And, again, he is an offensive weapon that we need to feed. I mean, that 60-yard run was absolutely amazing. But, yeah, we need to figure out how to become a running team.
All right. So Saquon, David, who do you have?
My player of the game would have been the rookies handing out pickle flavored water ice from Rita's during the halftime. But since they didn't do that, I'm going with someone on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who really impressed me. And that is the 85-year-old Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive coordinator, Tom Moore. He was on the sideline in that Florida Heat at 85 years old, running an impressive game plan, whipping the Eagles' tail, and proving that age is just a number. I was absolutely floored when I saw him on the sideline, and I was like, he kind of looked familiar, and I Googled him, and he was with the Steelers during the Steel Curtain days and won 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He won a national championship in the 50s. This man is 58 years old, moving, doing everything he's supposed to do. Motion is lotion, baby. 85, never quitting. Player of the game. He beat every young, bright mind in the NFL.
So thus far, 2 of our 3 players of the game are not players.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give it to Keely Ringo on the Eagles because I rarely watch games at a sports bar, but I did yesterday. And that was the only moment of the entire day there was cheering from Eagle fans is when Keely Ringo ran back the 2-point blocked point after attempt. So,
by the way, Isaiah Rodgers flew around the edge on that. Maybe they need to try him out at pass rusher. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Came in there
I like
untouched.
I like it.
It's worth a shot. I mean, I feel like we should give a shout out to Ben Van Sumeren, two-way player, getting a snap at fullback. Ultimate team player playing out of position there. I'll give mine to shoot. I had someone I was going to give it to because I knew Saquon would be gone, and now I can't remember who it was. That tells you what kind of a game it was.
Right.
I'll give it to Josh Sweat. I thought Josh Sweat. Nah, I'm not going to give it to Josh Sweat. You could give it.
Quinyon.
You could give it to Josh Sweat. Quinyon had some good moments. I'm going to give it to Jordan Mailata. I thought Jordan Mailata played. He gave up a sack in this game, and it was a bad sack. Outside of that sack, though, he played really well. And again, it's backup right tackle, but all the pressure was coming in on the right side, and outside of that one snap, Jordan Mailata pretty well held down the left side. So I thought Jordan Mailata played a pretty solid game. He had like an 80 pass block grade from PFF on the day, and so I'll give it to Jordan Mailata. There's a few guys that played good though. I thought Quinyon played well given what he was asked to do. I thought Slay was decent. Slay's kind of bad in run defense, but he had some good reps in coverage as well. It's just hard given the mess that game was. So what's up, Dives?
I'll add Cooper DeJean as a player of the game. I mean, given how bad Avonte looked on those missed tackles and in coverage, it's time to put your high pick on the football field. Give me Cooper DeJean as they got to try something new.
I feel like the Eagles came into, sometimes you try to play chess when everybody else is playing checkers and it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I did think, given the 105 heat index and all that stuff, I thought it was an interesting outside the box strategy to try to wear down the Tampa Bay offense by putting them on the field so much in the first half. And it didn't work, but maybe it worked and everybody thinks that you're like some evil genius. It's like, what if the next time it's 110 degrees, we just purposely go 3 and out the entire first half? Yeah. So the whole offense for the other team gets cramps and then we just walk over it in the second half. It didn't work, but hey, you got to shoot your shot sometimes. So there's always that too.
Yeah. Well, I will say poor Cooper DeJean, who unfortunately the Eagles missed a lot of tackles, but he got tackled twice by his own teammates. So
and both of them led to fumbles.
Yeah. So that was.
Oh, no. The second one didn't lead to a fumble. The second one, it just knocked him out of the way. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But still, I thought that was funny. He just got absolutely railroaded by 2 of his own teammates.
The same 2 guys, by the way, who teamed up to block the extra point and run it back for a touchdown.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
They at least quasi redeemed themselves.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, hey, this was a more fun show than after the Atlanta game, at least. So
yeah, that one hurt. I was bad.
That I think this just goes to show the age-old question of would you rather get blown out or lose, that gut-wrenching last-second loss in a close game. I think you'd rather get blown out. You can just start processing and making jokes earlier. So.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for this Monday night edition of Birds of the Roundtable. Always enjoy hanging out with you guys in the chat. Win or lose, it's always a fun time, except after the Atlanta game. We're going to throw it around the horn here for plugs. Final thoughts, if you guys have any. David, I'll throw it to you first. Plug your stuff and tell the people what you got going on.
You can find everything at PHL Eagle News. I started a new weekly piece called Eagles by the Numbers, where I'm just looking at stats and dropping little tidbits about things. I try to go through numbers 1 through 20 and find something that goes along with that. Like for number 19 this week, that's how many yards were allowed to Mike Evans by Quinyon Mitchell in coverage. I just try to find little stats like that. You can find it again. I'll post it at PHL Eagle News, Philly Sports Network, Metro Philly newspaper, whatever. But yeah, you can find it all there. All
right. Be sure you're checking out David's stuff. Ryan, what about you? What do you got going on?
I'm still waiting to hear back on my application to clearly the Irish mob with my new fancy hat. But outside of that, Mondays is a pretty busy day now that we're doing this show here, or at least temporarily. 6 o'clock, Football Smack Talk show, 9 o'clock, Party on Broad with this guy up here. And then tomorrow you can check me out Armchair Scouts on the Eagles Pinpool Network. And then, of course, Sundays, again, with this guy. I can't get rid of him. We're doing another Party on Broad college football edition. Kind of similar, but we're looking at Eagles targets and players of the week.
All right. Be sure you are checking out all of Dibes and Ryan's college football content. It's great stuff. Dibes, what about you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, you can go check out my shorts of winners of the week. I put around 7 to 10 of them every single week in college football. Those are fun. My final thoughts on this is just the pass rush, the lack of the pass rush. If the Eagles double dipped at defensive back last year, I'm double dipping at edge this year. Give me 2 6'5", 6'6" guys that can set the edge going forward, and that's my final thought.
All right, Dibes onto the draft already. Be sure you.
I'm not lying. I was doing a mock draft during this show.
All
It
right,
was just
be
you
sure.
saying you can check out my shorts like you wear them and then auction them on eBay.
Me and David clearly had the same sense of humor because we both looked at each other and just started bursting out laughing.
Yeah, we'll pass on checking out your shorts this week, but
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining the show. Be sure you're following the Eagles Pinpool Network. You get this podcast. You get my film review with Johnny. You get Eye on the Enemy, Armchair Scouts, post-game shows. There's all kinds of stuff on the feed. Chalk Talk already dropped this morning with Mark and I breaking down all the other action in the NFL. You also get Phil's daily morning updates during the week. So be sure you subscribe. 5-star ratings and reviews. Very much appreciated. Follow these guys on Twitter. He is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. David is at PHL Eagle News. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next time. Go Birds.